Welcome to Tame the Taboo. This podcast is brought to you by Discover Health. Discover Health specializes in healthcare, education, and resources for her most intimate concerns. I'm your host, Nurse Jenna. I'm a women's health and gender-related nurse practitioner, and I am making it my business to take you from sufferer to sensei. So if you are suffering from conditions that are not easily treated in an annual exam, or you want to join me on this journey to become my healthiest, wealthiest, best business owning self, sit back, relax, and enjoy these episodes. Okay, welcome back to another episode of Tame the Taboo. I am your host, Nurse Jenna, and I am here today with Victoria. Victoria, can you introduce yourself to the audience? I'm so excited to have you. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Thank you, Jenna. Hello, everyone. I am Victoria Icenhower, also known as a women's empowerment coach and sensual enthusiast. And I'm very excited to be connecting with Jenna today because we share a huge passion when it comes to discussions around sex and taming the taboo. And I also call myself the self-love scientist because I work with women to learn how to prioritize their sensual well-being, including their identities and the relationships they have with themselves, especially when it comes to body confidence, mindset, and sensual pleasure.
Oh my God, I'm so excited for this conversation. So, Victoria, how did you get into this work?
So I got into this work, I would say I niched down about 2 years ago because I started my business a little before that as a lifestyle coach, and I was out there posting about inspiration. I had completed yoga teacher training, so I was doing private practices through yoga, and I just generally loved sharing about how to build a lifestyle that I consider to be filled with happy and joy. At the same time, I was actually experiencing some of my personal, I would say, endeavors and troubles. And in the year of 2022, I went through a divorce, and it was the end of a 10-year relationship. And it was something that I would say, no one really plans for. And because it was such a deep relationship, my whole identity went with it. And I went into survive mode because I was like, okay, I got to make sure that I'm sustainable and safe on this, new adventure. And because of this change in my identity with this relationship, a lot of things came up as a woman, especially because you're kind of faced with questions of like, did I make the right choice? The fears of being alone and, will I find the right partner again? And as I was navigating these questions for myself, I kind of think, very grateful for my lawyer who basically told me during this process, she said, stay low. Do not come back. Like, don't come up for air. Just kind of work on yourself for a bit. And in that process, I learned that there's a lot of, I would say, barriers behind how did I get to this moment? And what is it that I want to do now, so that I can have this like new lifestyle? And I started recognizing that in this previous relationship that I was blocking myself and allowing these blocks, which came from my childhood, my personal experiences. And I never allowed myself the ability to really get to know who I am and what I wanted. And so I just became very passionate about what this is looking like for other women and speaking out on like, hey, like I experienced this, painful sex, and also, shame around being, I would say sexually explicit with myself. And then I came across female masturbation, which is a taboo topic. And it blew my mind about how there's such like this societal, like, hush, hush, don't talk about it kind of thing. And that for women, they have to just constantly show up, take care of everybody else. And the idea of, working on yourself is kind of, shameful. So that was pretty much the pivot in my work. And I niched down and just started sharing stories and doing more research around a woman's mindset around her pleasure and finding the connection between what we're thinking to our very own pleasure. And so here I am now. It's 2024, so it's about a year and a half now into the making, and it's been a beautiful process and a wonderful, I would say, out of all the hats I have worn in terms of work, this is by far my favorite, to be able to hold space for women to express these vulnerable moments and share their stories, and then recognize that all it takes is just a few mind shift tweaks and installing new habits and learning to love yourself again.
Hmm. That work is deep and hard and personal. So kudos for you actually like put in the work in and then saying, okay, I'm going to take these skills and apply it to helping other women too. That is amazing. One of the
Thank you.
things that, yeah. One of the things I find as a provider is that, like, when you are on the journey as a client coming to see me and you're already starting kind of this like deep work, it can be disappointing sometimes to be putting in the work and then your body is not responding in the way that you want it, you know? So, do you work with women who have physical components to their pain too? Or are you working with women who are like, the block is mental and this is the work that we have to do? Have you come up against that at all?
I have worked with women who do experience physical discomforts, especially, around there's sexual pleasure. And the way I personally navigate it is by creating recommendations. I put together I call it the self-care, self-love box that they get with all of our sessions. And these come with materials that they can use throughout the process. Now there is a difference between, you know, when we have these conversations, it's going to be something that they consent to, that they're going to be comfortable with. And it could be anything from, I use yoni eggs to help with, it's almost like a Benoit ball or like a Kegel material of some kind. And I encourage my clients to utilize this to, create a stronger pelvic floor, to alleviate discomfort during sex. And it's also a very beautiful grounding process. I would say, when I think about it, I personally, I would I would say I've not had any clients who experienced anything more detrimental than that. If it is something that it is outside of my scope, I would make a recommendation to seek a physician. Some of my clients, I had an honor to work with women who have PCOS, and so there's a lot of discomfort in that as well. And then by working together with the combination of the mindset work and then working on creating this beautiful, self-love practice, where I tell them, creating the date night for yourself, they've been able to experience less painful symptoms.
Got you. Kegel is like a dirty word to me. I think that so many people know what Kegels are, right? Like you need to tighten, tighten, tighten. But really, when we're trying to access pleasure, what I teach clients is that you have to be soft first. You have to be relaxed first. Your muscles have to be soft and supple and open to receiving, especially if you're talking about any sort of penetration with penis or finger or toys or whatever it may be. If you are tight and experiencing tension, then it's going to contribute to pain. So, Kegels are always the first thing that people are taught to do, no matter if it's leakage or pain or whatever. And so really I'm like, I want no one to Kegel. I only want people to Kegel if it is necessary. And it's a very small population of women that actually need to be doing the Kegels. So yeah, I would just say like definitely as you are working with your clients and doing the Benoit balls and things like that, like really also make room to encourage the softness that needs to come, because so many women are like, I can tighten all day, like I can do it. But if your muscles cannot be relaxed at baseline, when you go to engage them to have like good grip strength during penetration, right? You can't do it because your muscles are already so tight. So they're like, sis, I cannot relax anymore. Or when you're going to kind of go over the edge and reach orgasm, if you cannot relax your pelvic floor muscles, that orgasm might not ever come. But I love this idea of connecting with the body and having some sort of exercise to do with yourself so that you can become more familiar with like, oh, okay, she's there, like I can be connected with my body and feel safe in this.
I agree. I think it's a safe practice. I love the way you say soft because even though we have these materials available, even though we have these, hey, like practice inserting this into your vaginal canal, there are instances where women experience, it's an absolute like this is not going to happen because they're experiencing some form of stress or trauma where like the walls are so tight and closed that the idea of trying to insert just makes it worse. So when you say soft, I love it because it's like let's take a step back, let's encourage breath work, let's encourage reflection and where this is coming from because you know kind of looping in with sex, like it doesn't have to immediately start with penetration. We do require, foreplay. We require feeling safe, and safety goes not just with condom. It's more like, this connection. Do I feel like I can really relax with this individual and be myself? And then turn the conversation on yourself. Like, how are you feeling in your body right now? Like, is this something you want? Are you wanting to have conversations? Because it's important to discuss with your partner before you kind of move through with it, like the expectations and your boundaries. And I think when the more conversations we have about this, the softer we can feel with receiving and doing these practices.
Yeah. So, yeah, softness and safety, they go hand in hand. And I think more than just with sex, right? Like, I think just being you hear people talk about like being in your divine feminine, like operating in your feminine, like that comes with the privilege of safety. And so a lot of women are seeking to be soft and to be in their divine feminine, but it's difficult when you also are not safe and then you have so many other hats to wear, right? Like it is hard to be soft and the leader of the home and the leader in the workplace and all of these other things, but especially if you're not safe, it's just almost impossible to really operate in that receiving kind of energy.
Yes, especially like for the two of us, like we're located in the DMV area, and it's very common to, it's hard to be a soft woman in a very hard, tough, fast paced location environment where it's all about the work and building and creation. And like you said, it's, how can I learn to relax when I need to be the boss babe? I got to be the mom at the soccer games, or I need to be the corporate baddie and then also be like the independent, like, you know, I don't want to rely on anyone else. At the same time, I don't know how to rely on myself.
Mhm.
It's a interesting concept we have going here.
It's a balance that I think is difficult to achieve. I like to joke with some of my clients. I'm like, we are in the city of tight asses, right? Like we are everybody's walking around stressed out. We got an election coming up in November. Like, the DC world is just on edge at all times. And so that manifests physically in our bodies. And so that can look like pain with intercourse, pain with sitting for long periods. It can look like overactive bladder symptoms. Hey, I can't make it to the bathroom because my muscles are so tight because I'm stressed out because I've, been listening to the news all morning, right? And now my body is just like in this flight or fight mode. So learning as like a DC woman how to be that badass, but also how to turn it off and how to manage that stress and not take it on, and recognizing that everything is going to affect you physically, but what are the tools you have to combat that and say, hey body, it's okay, I'm safe, I can relax now, I can calm down.
And that's something that women, it's not something we talk about though. So it's one of those things where the moment they hear this information, like as we're talking, it's like, wait a minute, I'm allowed to pause. Like, wait a minute, I'm allowed to do these things. And like when you said whatever's happening in your environment is contributing to what you're experiencing physically, sexually, emotionally. Like when you mentioned the news, some people are getting, it's like the news, it's the social media trends, and it's causing, discomfort, irregular menstrual cycles, and then they're also like becoming constipated and having IBS, and it's just for
Yeah, how can you poop if you're a tight ass, right? Like,
and you need to do that every day.
You need to do it every day.
Yeah.
And it also translates to birthing too. Like, how can you birth a baby when you it's not about pushing that baby out, right? It's really about like allowing your body to do its thing. And it's the same with poop. You don't have to push your poop out. Like, your body is set up to automatically do that once you're in a safe environment. You just need to get to a safe bathroom and have no eyes on you and have a little bit of privacy, and then breathe and relax and allow the poop, allow the baby to kind of, do what your body was designed to do. But if you're constantly trying to be in control and like, I'm the one that's pushing the poop and I'm the one that's pushing the baby, you're kind of working against yourself. Like, you're working against your body, because now your pelvic floor muscles are tight and they are, keeping you closed off, right? Like, they are, again, in protection mode. It is not safe for me to relax. So getting back to that safety and that softness is key for sex, for peeing, for pooping, for breathing. The seat of life, right, is in your pelvis. And so when we can access softness, it gives us further access to pleasure and function.
I love that you said that.
Thank you. So tell me more about your business here in the DMV. So you help women as an empowerment coach. Do you work one-on-one or do you have groups?
My main focus is creating a virtual space one-on-one. And that allows me and the clients, we sit in a space together. We highlight what it is they're wanting to develop or grow into. We use words like attraction or manifesting. And most of the time, I would say the clients I work with have experienced like their own version of an end of a relationship or a divorce. And the reasons why we connect is because they also resonate with my personal experiences. And in this virtual space, they get to learn more about themselves than they've ever realized. And that's one of my favorite parts, is the moment, I would say, after I've noticed it probably into the third, maybe even at the end of the second session, or as soon as we're halfway through the third session, because they go through a period of like about 3 sessions over the course of 3 months. And they start to recognize like how valuable they really are. And it just, the way it changes like their skin, and they, compared to where they start, because they come into these calls and it's, it's really hard. Like, we don't grow up with, having these conversations. And what I love about working one-on-one is, we get to create the space together. We get to create the session the way you need it to be. And watching them utilize the tools that they're given and growing into a healthier, more, they feel sexy in their bodies again. They're able to put themselves in, and I would say, air quotes, uncomfortable situations, such as planning these public solo date nights, or clients who go back onto the apps and they're able to just set themselves up with these dates more confidently, knowing what it is they want, because they recognize the values that they bring to the table from themselves and their willingness to not settle for less. And then women who go out there wearing the tight dresses after experiencing, feelings of body shame. And so I would say like my main, like what takes up most of the time is creating these spaces one-on-one. And then at the same time, I'll work with other companies, especially like nonprofits who are centered around healthcare, with their businesses, whether it's going to a conference or providing a workshop, and having these conversations like, hey, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the fact that your mental health is connected to your sexual health. And let's talk about the remedies, the steps we can take so that you can experience a healthier mindset and a more turned on lifestyle.
I like that. Turned on lifestyle.
Yes,
So learn
ma'am.
how to turn yourself on, to then turn on partners, to then, turn on your entire lifestyle. I like that.
Exactly. When a woman is more tuned into her body, her reality, her work, her world is completely turned on for her. And
Hmm.
that was something I picked up personally. And the moment I thought about this, I was like, oh my God. Ever since I worked and journeyed through my own personal divorce process, and putting myself back out there after recognizing the value I have and utilizing, these self-love practices, I've experienced such a blissful lifestyle, and I'm loving that I get to do that for others and watch them grow into these, sexier versions, more confident versions. They're becoming more successful in business. They're attracting the partners, or if they're in a relationship, they're able to communicate better versus that whole like, well, what if X, Y, and Z, or I'm not, it's just something that we're not used to talking about. So yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. When a woman is back in and she's got her feet on the ground and she knows where she brings, it completely pivots everything.
Oh, wow. So you help women to recognize and remember that they are the prize and
Mhm.
they should hold their heads high navigating these difficult, relationships or ends of relationships.
That's right.
Okay. I love that. Are you from the DMV?
Yes. I
Okay.
grew up in Virginia and then I moved to the DC area last summer.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So you kind of know kind of the type of woman that lives in the DMV, and I think throughout America too. I can't think of a place where it is designed for women to be like soft, right? And just I don't know. Maybe they exist, but I've never lived in those spaces. But DC especially just feels like you are grinding. You're in the grind, and that sometimes is not fun.
It is something I have noticed when people ask me like, "Oh, how do you like it here?" And I said, "Well, I feel like I'm the happiest woman here." And, even in transportation, going to the airport, going, to the metro, I can see it in the body language. I can see it in their faces. Like they're just holding so much. And I'm like, what would it, what's that?
Tension,
Yeah.
right? Like you can, if you're clenching your jaw, right, because you're stressed out, you can see that on your face. And so you're a big zipper. So if you're tight in your jaw, then you're tight in your vagina too, right? So
Mhm.
it's amazing like what the freedom of being able to just like smile, right? Just like to walk the street. That is my goal. I just want to be the lady that people are like, why is she smiling right now? Like, why are you so why are you so free? Why are you so happy? Like that is a goal of mine.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. I know I've heard that before. People were like, all you do is like if you look in someone's direction and just smile, almost like it's like I call it like flirting with your reality or flirting with the universe. I was on the metro the other day and I sat there and I saw a gentleman in front of me and he looked like he like just came out of a meeting. He just looked tired and he looked in my direction and all I did was smile at him and he just sat there and it just started to grow on his face and I was like, see, just let other people, sharing what you have, your joy and your happiness really does like make a difference in someone's lifestyle. And I think again, like using the word in air quotes, like just flirting, and you got to flirt with yourself first and then share and move that love outward. It's going to completely change the dynamics of your relationship.
That's awesome. Now I don't want it to be misconstrued that, the weirdos that come up to you and like, smile, baby girl. Like what you're like, that's not that's not this. That
No,
is not
it's
what I'm
not.
encouraging. I don't want women to think that they have to smile all the time or have to be happy, but I just want pleasure and joy to be accessible to us in any moment if we want to use it. And so that we're not constantly thinking about the bathroom and my bladder and my vagina and oh my god, is he going to tap me on the shoulder tonight and how much is it going to hurt and am I going to get an infection after this? So, yeah.
I agree. I think one of the surprising factors women learn is the fact that during sex or even pleasure, it's also like our birthright. Like we have the potential to experience pleasure, not just like relying on our partners or a product to do that for us. Like we have so much more power like in our bodies to experience that for ourselves. It just takes some time and it takes some, useful, resources and support to get us there.
Mhm.
And like I'm going back to your tight ass comment because when you're sitting in like DC or going to New York, we're like the happiest women there, and we're surrounded by people who are just so wound up. And like, if more people experienced true orgasm, we would probably be the happiest city in the country
Right.
versus the tightest and traffic and all the other contributions that wound people up in their stress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we have to, again, at baseline, make sure that there are not any like physical things that are causing you to be tight or to, to make sure you're out of pain first, and then we start to access pleasure. But that pain piece is women, so many women are gaslit, right? Like you show up at your provider's office and you're like, my bladder's gone crazy and I can't have orgasms and it hurts when I sit and all of these things, and your provider has no clue about pelvic floor dysfunction, and they're like, well, you don't have cancer. Like you're okay, you're fine. But it really is a deeper conversation that needs to be had about, okay, yes, I might not be sick, but what about joy? What about pleasure? What about true wellness? Like, can you help me with some of the tools to achieve that?
Yeah, and I agree, and I think that's something I've learned about you is like you have this wonderful space to have these conversations when women are experiencing some like physical discomfort in their pelvic floor. Like I'm still having or even vaginal dryness. It's like, what is causing this? And then they're having these conversations with their partners, and their partners only know what they know. However, we have resources such as yourself to be like, hey, let's talk about the environment. Let's talk about your experiences. Let's get a panel going. Because there's so much happening in a woman's body. Like every day, we're constantly changing.
Definitely. And hormones are foundational in my practice. So, meaning that, if you have PCOS and you're not ovulating and you have vaginal dryness, if you are going through perimenopause, which if you are, 30 plus and having irregular cycles, or even if you're having regular cycles and experiencing vaginal dryness, it could be perimenopause, right? And so we have to give women access to the treatments that work really well to address that, and then watch the flowers kind of unfold, right? Like I see so many of my clients, like once they are no longer in pain and they are accessing pleasure, so many have like exponential growth in other parts of their life, you know like, okay, I'm not worried about peeing my pants or having hot flashes during my corporate meetings. So, like, I'm raising my hand more. Like, I'm moving up in the corporate world because I'm not held back by my body and the physical things that are happening to me because of things like hormone dysfunction or pelvic dysfunction or even weight management, right? Like, really, when your house is in order, everything else starts to follow and improve.
I love that. I agree.
Hmm. So, where can the folks find you? Where are you in the interwebs?
So the best way to reach me is I have an Instagram, which is Victoria_Icenhower. They can contact me on my website, which is theselflovescientist.com. And that also highlights the programs we do together. Some you can read about other people's experiences. And then I always have my emails available. So you can email me at victoria.lotuslifestyle@gmail.com.
Awesome. Okay. Are you doing any of your yoga work right now too, or are you focusing on coaching?
My focus right now is coaching. It's definitely been something that I've become more passionate about, like having these conversations and connecting and collaborating, like meeting you and having these conversations has been very exciting because I think the more exposure we have on this, the more we can reach people. So I love having my own private yoga practices at home, and I would encourage everyone to, look at it, whether it's 5 minutes of breath or 5 minutes of stretching. It's always great. And yeah, to answer your question, the coaching is definitely what takes up, and I get to do that.
That's good. Okay, cool. Well, Victoria, this has been really, really good. I can't wait to continue getting to know you and seeing how we can continue to collaborate and get the ladies in DC to be able to relax a little bit and have a little bit more pleasure.
Yes, I absolutely love that. And it's been an honor to be on your podcast. I absolutely loved our live, and I can't wait to share that with everyone. And I think the way like I look at our work, it's almost like our goals long term is like let's make DC orgasmic and pleasurable to live in.
Make DC orgasm again. I
Yeah.
love that.
Like
Make
make
America orgasm again.
yes, like let's do it, let's get this, start in the city and just like watch it ripple out.
I like to say I'm on a mission to revolutionize women's health, and that's one orgasm at a time. So
Ooh, yes.
we're on our way.
Yes,
Cool.
absolutely love that. Thank you for having me, Jenna. This was wonderful.
Yes, this was wonderful. Thank you for helping us tame the taboo, and thank you all for listening in. We will catch you on the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Tame the Taboo. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. Send this to your girlfriend so they can join you on your journey as we transition to our healthiest, wealthiest, best selves. See you on the next episode.